Divorce isn't just an ending, it's a reckoning. It's going to reveal who you are in these higher conflict divorces. Welcome back to Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. I'm Corey Shapiro. This is our season-ending episode. And congratulations for doing all the hard work. We focused so heavily this season on phase 1 of the divorce process, which is get clarity. And that leads you to accelerate phase 2, which is get going, and then get your life back, which is phase 3. And we're going to do something a little different for the season ender. I want to give you some takeaways for phase 2 and beyond that I think is really helpful. And if this is really your first time listening to this and you're like, I didn't even know this was the season ender, this is a good place to start too. This is going to give you an overview. But I also suggest starting from the beginning and picking an episode that speaks to you. So I'm honored you're here. I'm honored you did the work. And if you have been following along, I told you can do it. You didn't believe me, did you? But you're here. So let's get going. I'm going to give you 5 things that I think you really got to think about to move you forward. 5 divorce truths, if you will, to get you going in a better way. So the first truth is clarity is more valuable than control. And you're going to want to control this process. That's why I focus so much on that space between activation and action, because you want to control. And you see it all the time in the news of people trying to control things they can't control. And divorce, can't control. You can't control the other side. You can influence them. You can persuade them, but you can't control them. Just like a lawyer can't control a judge. We can frame issues. We can try to persuade a judge. We can influence a judge, but we can't control the judge. And you can't control your ex. So what you got to focus on? You got to focus on clarity. And that's why we start so heavily on phase 1 on clarity. What's important to you? What kind of divorce do you want? What kind of relationship do you want with your ex post-divorce? You think everything that happens in the negotiation in your divorce doesn't matter? Everything matters. So think about that. Think about the clarity you need to move forward in a way that works for you. Might not work for your friend. Don't compare yourself. It's not about what your friend or your colleague or what you see in the news, what happened there. It's what's for you. That's the clarity I'm talking about. It's going to really push you forward. It's sort of like there's so many people out there who are just content with their life in such a good way. They could be a nurse. They can be a teacher. They know their lane. They're not trying to take over the world. They're happy. They're happier. That's what I'm talking about. That's the clarity you need. And that builds on to point number 2, which is fairness is a trap. Now, fairness is a trap. You see this in parenting. You see parents say, I want 50-50. I want equal time. Well, first of all, I don't really even know how to divide 365 days equally. You also see that in dividing assets. I want half. Sometimes you can't figure out half. Some assets are hard to value. And you can get experts, and experts disagree on value, and it takes so much time and so much money. So fairness is a trap. What do I rather you think about? Balance. Balance. So for example, if you're saying, hey, it's my kid too, I want 50-50. What's your problem, Corey? Why should the other parent get more time? Well, first of all, I would look at it, what happened before? If it's a true 50-50 partnership, maybe that's right. But if you were the one that were working all the time and the other parent took some time off and really did more childcare, they're already probably the primary parent. And maybe in this season of their lives when they're younger, maybe it's important for them to have more time. And the balance I'm talking about is maybe as they get older, that's when you can have more time. So it might not be 50-50 on a 2-week rotating schedule where one person gets 7 days, one person gets 7 days, And we just keep on repeating that. But it might be on balance until the kid goes to college, substantially equal. That's what I want you to think about, substantially equal. And I also want you to think about that in finances. I don't really know what this is worth. I think it's worth this. Someone comes to your house, for example, and they want to give you a certain amount of money. How do you know it's fair? You probably think about what you paid for it. You probably think about what your mortgage is. Probably think about what the work needs to be done in a house. Probably think of what you need moving forward. Hey, I'm moving to Florida. I live in New York. I want to live in a condo. I live in a house now. Don't really need so much. This person's offering me all cash. Maybe it's not everything I can get, but I don't have to worry about months of my life and the best offer. Maybe that's enough for me. So fairness is a trap. Let me build on that further with point 3. Time is currency. I have to tell you, no one has called me up in almost 25 years of practice. My day job, I'm a divorce lawyer in New York City, and said, Corey, how long is this going to take? They don't ask that question. What the questions they ask is how much it's going to be, what's the process like, what's your retainer? And the answer is, I don't know how long it's going to take. It all depends on the other side agrees to it or not. So if you want 50-50 parenting time, the other person says yes, then that's pretty fast. But if the other person says no, and they're willing to spend years of their lives fighting it, are you willing to spend that kind of time? And you might be, yes, I am. Well, let me tell you something. I went to law school, and which was, I don't think, the way I thought it was going to be, because it's not really about teaching you to become a good lawyer. It's really more about rent control. There's too many damn lawyers anyway, so they create all these systems to try to keep people not being lawyers. And then they have the bar, which is even more complicated than the LSATs before you even go to law school. So it's a whole system to basically weed out people who don't want to really be lawyers. And there's a lot of people that first few months of law school, because it's miserable, dropped out. Time's a currency. All that time they spent studying for the LSAT, that's a standardized test you take, doing the applications, spending that money, and they drop out. So that's the same thing that happens in divorce. Oh, this is so meaningful to me. But once they see how hard it is, once they see the time investment, the money investment, they're like, well, maybe I'll just change my position. I don't want you to change your position after you spent 2 years in your divorce. I don't want you to change your position when you spent $25,000 on your lawyer. That's why I want you to start off with thinking about time as a currency. That's why I want you to think about clarity. I want you to have that vision. And then if you really are going to fight for something, you're going to go the distance because it's a core issue for you. And that's people I represent. We go the distance if it's a core issue. We settle or we go core issue. And I tell people, I don't want you to, you see this sometimes in like condos where they're like building condos and then it's like a half-built condo development. I don't want to see that for you. It's horrible. It's horrible. All right. 4, you are not your emotions. I was thinking about Nikki Glasser, a comedian, for this because she was on Howard Stern and she was really vulnerable of her monologue masterclass when she hosted the Emmys, which was fantastic. But listening it from her perspective, she was critical. She said she in her mind, and that's why she's so good, because over the years, she's just trying to get better and better and better. She said, she made mistakes, and then she realized that she was all in her head a little bit. So she had all these emotions flooding, and then she had to let it go. And then when she let it go, she could relax more, and then she didn't make no mistakes. And she was practicing, she said, for months for that 10-minute monologue. So that's what I want you to think about. You're not your emotions. That's why I start each episode with, you're going to feel angry. You're going to feel scared. You might even want to rage. This is normal. You might feel even depressed, frozen. Maybe even listening to this podcast is like, wow, I don't want to do that. I'd rather do something else. Yeah, I get it. I'm with you. But I want you to have those emotions pass. I want you to realize that if you're running a marathon and you're hitting the wall, what I want you to do is just walk. I don't care that you want to have a certain, let's say you're a 10-minute miler and you're like, what's the point? I'm not even on my pace now. That's not what it is. I want you to walk. I want you to finish. You had a vision. Things didn't turn out exactly the way you wanted it. Not 100% perfect, just like Nikki. She wasn't 100% perfect, but she was amazing. And you don't need these emotions. You don't have to act on these emotions. You can move forward in a better way. And that leads me to my last big point, which sort of builds on this, is progress matters more than perfection. Yeah, progress matters more than perfection. So what do I mean by that? You can't get 50-50 on the parenting time. They're being oppositional. You have young children. That's what I normally see. One parent, usually the mother, she's like, hey, I've been the primary parent. I'm digging in. These kids are young. You've been out working. You haven't been so involved. Why do you want to be so involved now? And you're like, I don't want to have this fight. The key of a good parent, and this is coming from a judge, and I'm sure who came from some amazing therapist, the key of being a good parent is creating happy memories for children, for your kids. So you're like, okay, in this case, if the mother, she did do most of the work, our kids are young, and listen to this podcast, it says on balance, it doesn't have to be 50-50, but maybe on balance it could be. Maybe earlier on, they will accept that they are primary, and as the kids get older, you can have a reevaluation, or you can just have a step up. It's not perfect. Perfect is going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost, remember the budget? It's your time, your energy, your emotion, your money. It's going to cost too much money. But you're like, hey, maybe we'll step up. We'll phase in more time as the kids age. That's creative. That's smart. Now you're thinking the way I would talk to my clients. That's progress over perfection. Another way to think of this, but these tiny shifts and these micro wins, is compound. We talked on this podcast about having credit card debt and how that debt compounds, and you realize at the end of the year, like, why did I spend so much money on credit card debt? And you don't even think about it because you're like, it's 40 here, 50 here, no big deal. That's just maybe a dinner, but it adds up to like a vacation. You're like, why am I wasting this money? And the same thing on the positive side, if you invested money, you see this in your retirement account and you just put in a certain amount each year and it compounds, and over like 10 years, 20 years, it turns into something, but you didn't put so much in each time. You didn't have to make a big, deposit, but it grows. That's compound interest. That's doing the work. I play piano. I've been playing piano for, at this point, maybe 7-8 years. And I just play like 10 minutes a day. I have a teacher. I go half an hour once a week, take some time off for the summer. And I'm telling you, I'm a night and day different player. Just that little practice, because I can't do an hour or half an hour. It's too much for me. It's compounding in the right way. So progress means more than perfection. Let me give you a power phrase. We're going to end the year with a power phrase. And divorce isn't just an ending. It's a reckoning. It's going to reveal who you are in these higher conflict divorces. And I want to give a path. And I think it's a path that happened to me, and why I share so much and why I'm doing this podcast is, I had a hard upbringing. At least I thought it was hard. I could compare it to other people. Maybe it wasn't so hard, but for me, it was hard. I had a broken family, had a lot of conflict. And I thought, I really want to help people. I want to help people not have this kind of conflict. And that's why my book I wrote, Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind, I thought about that. I thought people lose their mind. They're not thinking. They're not coming from their best self. And we all have that at times. But then when you give yourself some space and you're like, you know what? I can get stronger here. This challenge is making me better. I could be a better person. And I think that's what my upbringing did for me. I'm the type of person that grew from that. I tell people sometimes in consults, there's two types of people. Let's say your family, there was some medical issue. And in the beginning, you're going to be like, oh, medicine didn't help my family. F medicine, not going to work for me. Or you can say, maybe I could become the best doctor in the world and help other people who experienced, so they wouldn't have to experience what I experienced as a child. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to pay it forward. So as we end this season, and as you maybe move it into phase 2, get going, or you're starting to get going, and you get to phase 3, getting your life back, I want you to pay it forward too. You could leave me a voicemail at voicemail.gettingdivorced.org. I want you to share your success story. I want to share if this podcast is thinking more clearly, shorten that experience, that phase 2, which could last for years, that get going with your divorce. Did it help to plan so much in the beginning, to pause when you're so reactive, to think about that budget in a different way? Did it help? That's what I want for you. And this is not easy. This is a challenge. Law school wasn't easy. The bar wasn't easy. Learning these concepts the hard way, being in the trenches, getting beat up by attorneys who are much more experienced than me. But I grew and I'm stronger. And that's what I'm doing for you. I'm making you stronger. And I told you got this. Told you can do this. So I hope you have a trusted advisor in their next phase of your journey. Hope that trusted advisor and you are going to have not an easy divorce, not a super hard divorce, but a divorce where you can get what's most important to you. That's what I want for you. And then you can move on with your life. All right, thanks for watching this season. Thanks for listening for these podcasts. If you listen to it like me, I listen to most of my podcasts walking. But if you like to watch, we're also on YouTube. We have our videos. But I'm partial to listening. I just like to do things where I'm efficient. And I do enjoy it. But if you want to see what I look like, check it out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, this is a new chapter. It's sort of reminding me of graduating from college and all that unknown about getting a job or moving from to getting married. That was a journey. There's all these life events that happen that you're going to have to sort of stretch yourself a little bit. And that's what this divorce does. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks for doing the work. I'm honored you're here. I really am. Honored you're doing this because you're not only helping yourself, you might be really helping your kids. And that's why I'm really doing this. I'm really trying to help your kids have a better life. And they're going to stand on your shoulders. So keep it up. I'm Corey Shapiro. Again, thank you. Keep on doing it. Appreciate it.
This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.